So, all right. Hi, everyone. I'm Ho, the moderator of our group's forum today. So our topic is, should school give more emphasis to emotional intelligence than academic intelligence? Before we start our topic, I'd like to introduce our group members. They are Hasa, Aina, SANGEERTANAA, and Nav. I'll be starting the forum by giving a brief introduction to emotional intelligence and academic intelligence. Emotional intelligence refers to the ability to identify, evaluate, control, and express emotions, as well as the emotions of others, while academic intelligence is used to determine academic abilities and identify individuals with off-the-chart intelligence or mental challenges. Moving on, I would like to pass it on to Hassa. So Hassa, what should school emphasize on IQ and EQ?
Okay, Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. First of all, thank you for having me as one of your panelists tonight. It is very interesting topic to discuss. So, why should school emphasize intelligence, quotient and emotional intelligence, IQ and EQ? So let's talk about Malaysia National Education Philosophy. The first line of the philosophy of education is claimed to be able to develop potential of an individual. So these individuals' potentials cover all intellectual, spiritual, emotional, and physical aspects. Moreover, holistic development by integrating all potential of individual in such a manner that produce balance and harmonious citizens for the better future. So school is a place where the students increase their knowledge, develop new skills, and explore new things every day in order to prepare the students to face new challenges in life. So the moment we walk in our school office, so we could see an organization chart of the school. So through the organization chart, we can see the systematic arrangement of the school management, which are the school head, senior assistants, panel heads, class teachers, and the students. So each of these positions play a very important role so the students can be fully developed. Thank you.
Thank you, Hassa. It seems like IQ and EQ are also giving important impacts on the students. Moving on, our group member Sangeeta will discuss how IQ and EQ give an impact to children at schools.
Okay, good morning and thank you for having me as one of your panelists. And I'll be talking about what is IQ and EQ. IQ is commonly divided into two factors. One is fluid and one is crystallized intelligence. Fluid intelligence refers to the capacity to solve or to think about a theory to generally solve a problem or a conflict. And it is sometimes measured by non-verbal tests that requires abstract reasoning and maybe, for example, matrices test. And this test is done to reduce the influence of culture, educational level, and verbal comprehension. So according to the KSSM, it is stated that students are allowed to pick subjects based on their level of interest. For example, let it be a science stream or art stream, or let it be accounts. They are free to choose what goes along with their interests. And secondly, I'll be talking about how IQ impacts students in school. It allows students to think out of the box, again, as I mentioned before, to find solutions that might help their problems by solving, and also using fluid intelligence as to example of having mixed models conceptualists for having mental abilities such as their traits or motivation and stress tolerance. This comes from their experiences. And when you talk about KSSM or the blueprint, it has been mentioned that students with higher IQ or EQ, they tend to choose the way that suits their problem the most, as in more familiarized. So that's how they choose the methods or gateways to counter their problems. And that is all from me.
right, thank you to Sangeeta with her informative points given. It can't be denied that IQ and EQ are giving positive impacts towards the children which help them to facilitate thoughts. Next, Aina will be giving opinions on IQ while Sangeeta will be giving opinions on EQ for further details of both IQ and EQ respectively when it comes to the education and career.
Okay, hi, I'm Aina, and I'm going to give out my opinions on IQ. So basically, as for me, I personally think that it is important for school to emphasize IQ, which is academic intelligence, because nowadays we can see very clearly that academic intelligence is crucial in determining someone's future career. So as for students, I think it is highly recommended for them to be given more emphasis, more knowledge of academy in order to make them like well prepared for the future, especially in their work field. So despite them having them being just someone like someone that is knowledgeable, so they can be someone who is smart enough to make decisions in their life. So we will look into the five system aspirations of Malaysian education system based on the Malaysian education blueprint, which they are striving to achieve the first access, second quality, third equity, fourth unity, and fifth efficiency. So this is all the five system aspirations that they wanted to achieve. So I will focus more on the quality. In the Malaysian education blueprint, it is aimed that all children will have the opportunity to attain an excellent education that is uniquely Malaysian and comparable to the best international systems. So the aspiration is for Malaysia to be in the top third of countries in terms of performance in international assessments as measured by outcomes in TIMSS and PISA. So within 15 years, they want to achieve all this. So what is TIMSS and PISA? It is currently a test for literacy, mathematics, and science only. So additional assessments that address other dimensions of quality that are relevant to the Malaysian context may be included as they are developed and become accepted into international standards. So in this itself, we can clearly see how important academic intelligence is for every institution, especially for schools. So the definition of IQ itself in the context of psychology refers to the skills that typify examinations of general intelligence such as math, reasoning, and language among them. So here, we can take note that in order for students to excel in their school examination, they must be provided with lots of academic knowledge. So as we are striving to achieve the quality system aspiration in our education system, as mentioned in the blueprint, so school must be able to give emphasis towards students' academic intelligence. So this is said because IQ represents abilities such as visual and spatial processing, knowledge of the world, fluid reasoning, working memory and short-term memory and quantitative reasoning. So I believe that if school manage to give emphasis to academic intelligence, Malaysia will achieve the quality system aspiration in our education system. Thank you, Ho. Now I think Sangi, you will proceed with the EQ.
Okay, in my opinion, EQ, or also known as emotional intelligence, is rather important for a child in school. EQ is important in self-regulated behavior, which can include impulse control. For instance, EI, or emotional intelligence, ability to manage emotions and helps with aggression and irresponsible behavior such as an alcoholic or drug abuse. Whatever the environment may be in a school, a child needs self-regulation with the help of enhancing their emotional intelligence. Moreover, a pupil with a higher EQ are able to generate a mood that allows them to do a better on challenging cognitive tasks along with their experiences. And as far as I know, emotionally intelligent people may use the capacity to adapt to other strategy and context in order to attain their goals. And with this, I can conclude that Malaysian blueprint, or according to the KSSM again, students with higher EQ, they have the ability to use their experiences to use that as a method of coping mechanism, I can say, to make sure they make good choices or good decisions with their subjects or with their interests, so that they do not stray away from their path and choose something that they lack in motivation to continue. Thank you. That's all from me.
All right, thank you to Aina and Sangeeta for giving us more useful and relevant details about EQ and IQ. So moving on, Nabs will be talking about both of the pros and cons of IQ and EQ.
Hi, my name is NAVENAA. Today I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of IQ and EQ. Firstly, I would like to touch on the pros followed by the cons of IQ testing. Alan Kaufman introduced the idea of intelligent testing more than a generation ago. He suggests that IQ tests should be used as a way to understand the context of a child's situation while comprehending their overall capacity to learn. We often use this test as a way to grade teachers and students on their effectiveness of their teaching and learning process. The first pro of IQ testing is that it can be used as a way to identify people who are gifted. Intelligent testing is an effective way to identify individuals who have an above average intellectual ability. This group of people often struggle at work and school because they endure high levels of frustration and boredom. Without adequate challenges to stimulate their learning process, it can lead some people toward a future that involves underachievement and behavioral problems. These tests make it possible to identify the concerns early, initiate faster learning process, and offer a richer education or professional experience. Secondly, it helps us to understand how the brain works. When intelligence testing provides results from hundreds of different approaches that involve thousands of participants from around the world, then it can gain new insights into how the brain works. This information allows us to re-evaluate a curriculum, change classroom designs, or even adjust how data is presented to students or adults to encourage memory retention. The cons of IQ testing are it does not measure all forms of intelligence. Psychologists and educators have come to realize that there are multiple forms of intelligence found in children and adults. People can be gifted in numerous ways, including kinetic, musical, and interpersonal intelligence. These are just as essential to human experience as mathematics or verbal skills. When these tests only measure one form of intelligence, and this is the foundation of their entire learning process, then it can railroad an individual into a process that can never develop their strength and always criticize their weakness. Secondly, it will often test limited subject materials. Most intelligent tests do not include information about creative subjects that people learn throughout their life. These tests tend to focus on mathematical knowledge, reading concepts, and scientific principles. Most do not offer people an opportunity to present their social, vocational, or creative knowledge. That means that tests are geared to measure one specific form of intelligence instead of an overall capability of each person. Anyone can succeed with ambition. Now I'm going to be expanding on the pros and cons of EQ. One of the pros of EQ is it is something that anyone can learn or adopt. Emotional intelligence isn't a genetic trait or a natural talent. It is a skill that anyone can learn. Of course, there will be some folks who are naturally better in learning these skills than others, but anyone has the potential to develop well-defined skills in this area. As long as you're willing to put in practice, you're able to find some success. Secondly, it improves a person's social effectiveness. By understanding the emotion of everyone else around them, a person exercising their skills of emotional intelligence can find ways to relate to others at a core level. This helps to improve their interpersonal relationship and draw people closer to them. In social situations, because emotional intelligence also increases the perception level of those around the individual. The first con of EQ is that it can be used to manipulate people. Emotions are one of the core components of our being. We experience emotion in virtual every moment of the day. When those emotions are understood as a skill, then it becomes another way to manipulate someone to do what they want them to do. A high emotional intelligence might eliminate physical bullying. But if the intentions are not good, then a different type of bullying can come about. Emotional bullying. What's worse is that the person being bullied will want to have it happen because it is emotionally fulfilling for them. Secondly, it prevents others from using their critical thinking skills. When someone knows how to put their emotion on a plate, then the emotional exposure can help others relate thought that context. As those emotions are placed strategically into a presentation, speech, or other public arena, those who are hearing and feeling those expressed emotions begin to get emotional themselves. As those uncontrolled emotions increase, the amount of logical thinking decreases, and this prevents critical and thinking from occurring. That's it from me.
Thank you, Nat, for explaining to us about both pros and cons of IQ and EQ. Now that it seems clear to every one of us to discern both IQs and EQs strength and weaknesses towards people in their daily life, moving on, Hassan will be talking about what schools should do to emphasize on EQ and IQ.
Right. Firstly, school infrastructures are the most basic facilities and capital equipment needed for the school to function efficiently. For instance, basic school facilities can be distributed into learning area such as library, hall, canteen, field, resource centers, science laboratory, computer laboratories, or rest area. These facilities are needed for the students to explore new things and increase their knowledge in schools. Secondly, schools should improve curriculum and co-curriculum programs, for example, in classroom activities. These are related to instruction work in different subjects such as classroom experiments, discussions, Q&A sessions, scientific observations, use of audio-visual aids, guidance programs, and examinations. So, based on Malaysia National Education Philosophy, schools should focus only on academic achievement as the end all be all for our students. This is because social emotional learning is a 21st century skills invaluable at home, school, and even in the workplace. So we can transform our school community by teaching students about the emotions and how to handle them effectively. So this will improve academic achievement and also result in less problem behavior and increase student health and well-being. Moreover, all students can benefit from acquiring skills which will help them to cope with their hurt, frustration, and stress when lives get tough or doesn't go as they plan or hope. Finally, the aim for National Philosophy of Education was to develop individuals' potential and improve their self-development as well into the highest level in terms of five important elements, which are physical balance, emotionally, spiritually, intellectual, and social. Therefore, the national philosophy of education is manifested in human life that has some good characteristics, balanced and harmonious. As a result, it can produce and develop many potential which can give contribution to religion and the nation as whole. In addition, the students can improve and develop specific skills and knowledge for them to be successful in the future and able to communicate and address problems more effectively with a good balance of EQ and IQ. Thank you.
Thank you to Hassan for your points given. It's clear that mostly the schools are organizing beneficial activities in order to emphasize the importance of IQ and EQ towards the students. Obviously, IQ and EQ are getting more important so that they can develop a student's ability and personality well in future. Next, AINA will be presenting about how will IQ or EQ change students in a better way and generate a better education system.
Okay, thank you, Ho. So we'll come back to me. And now I will give up my opinions about how will IQ and EQ change students in a better way and generate a better education system. So I think EQ and EQ in both ways does really help students to reach a high success not only in school but also in their work field and in their life. So we will look into how does it changes students to become a better person. So well, of course, When a student is provided with equal amount of EQ and IQ in school, so they will be someone who is a very well-balanced student. So as this is said, a well-balanced student will be having an ability to become someone who is well-rounded person, or what we call it as versatile. So based on the National Education Blueprint, there are 6 key attributes needed by every student to become globally competitive. So it is leadership skills, bilingual proficiency, ethics and spirituality, knowledge, national identity, and thinking skills. Okay, so I will give you 2 explanations regarding this. So the first one, I would like to focus more on the leadership skills. So why is it important for students? So because in our increasingly interconnected world, being able to lead and work effectively with others is critical. So to obtain this, it will need emotional intelligence and strong communication skills for students. So second is bilingual proficiency. So every child will be at minimum operationally proficient in Bahasa Malaysia as the national language and language of unity, and in English as the international language of communication. So in order to achieve this, it will need students' academic intelligence. So when students are well trained with EQ and IQ equally from the beginning, so they will have a clearer view and more mature mindset when handling the real life decision making. So hence, it will be easy for them to achieve the 6 key attributes as mentioned before by the National Education Blueprint. So if we manage to have all students with the 6 key attributes, I believe that the aspiration for Malaysia to be in the top third of countries in terms of performance in international assessments as measured by outcomes in TIMSS and PISA, within 15 years, it will become a wish come true. So I think that is all for me.
Thank you to AINA for providing these relatable and imaginable points on how IQ or EQ train students in a better way and generate a better education system. So it's about to make a decision to choose whether schools should give more emphasis on EQ or IQ. Perhaps NAPS can tell us the final results from our group.
After hearing everyone's input on the topic, I think it would be a wise decision if schools would give more emphasis on EQ. This is because school focuses more on academic purpose, which result in most people lacking in social skills, which is something that is gained widely through EQ. There are many benefits that can be gained through emphasizing on EQ. Through this, people will learn how to manage their emotions. For example, they can adjust to people with different nature and temperament, and most importantly, they can control their emotions and take practical decisions anytime, which is vital for everyone in this day and age. Emphasizing on EQ will also help strengthen the mind of individuals and make them wiser. To conclude, when EQ is applied, everyone's lifestyle would change for the better.
All right, thank you to NAF. Based on the points given by all of my members, we have decided to choose to emphasize EQ when it comes to should school give more emphasis to emotional intelligence than academic intelligence. So that's all for our forum. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.